And we're live. Welcome to the Barbell Strikes Back. I'm James McDermott, joined by Miguel Porter. Miguel, it's cold.
Yep.
And we're not happy about it.
Yeah.
The snow on my balcony is the highest I've ever seen it. When I stand next to the window, it's up past my hip, which is pretty darn high. If it snows again, it's just going to it'll be up towards my chest depending on how much it snows. And I know in my lease, they say they're like, you have to clear the snow off of your balconies. And I'm like, where do you want me to put it? I'm on the 6th floor. So should I just throw it over the side? I don't know how that's supposed to work.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
How is it
you have a balcony,
getting
right?
that much? Like, is it not covered, or is it just the angle that it's at?
Well, there is no cover on top of it. So I'm completely exposed. Like, I'm on the 6th floor, and it's just a balcony and like a side divider to the left for the other person, the next door neighbor's balcony. But there is no roof or ceiling to it. It's just open.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's why during the summer when I put up my shade sail and people complain, I'm like, well, this is the only way I can be out here. Otherwise it turns into a parking lot. Like it's just a slab of concrete. Like you could fry an egg on that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's old building, So yeah, I keep wondering. I'm like, it's not melting. And it's never done this before because normally it warms up a little bit and the snow melts and then it comes back and it melts.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely a record. I got about 3 feet or so of snow on my balcony. That I don't know. I'm not going to try to move it, but it's just interesting that they would want me to. It's like the only place for this snow to go is over the edge. So is someone going to wait down there and make sure no one's walking underneath when I'm throwing all this snow? Like, how do you want that to happen? But and I saw a post that we have like 8 Mondays or X amount of Mondays before like the nice weather's back, and I've never thought about it that way. Like, oh, only this many Mondays. So if you just start checking off the Mondays, this will all be over with.
Yeah. I mean, I guess on like a day-to-day basis, I'm noticing that the sun is setting a little bit later each time. And that's kind of helping. But yeah, I don't know. The way that this year is going, I feel like it's possible that we get snow pretty deep into the spring.
Yeah, that's why I'm really glad that the regional Adirondack Weightlifting Regional Open is towards the end of April, because I used to try to run this meet the last weekend of March, and then it ended up getting pushed into early April or like right on the border. And I just don't want to take a chance of a snowstorm. They just had to go through that down in New York City where they're combining sessions, making bigger sessions and canceling things and all kinds of stuff when we had the epic, nationwide snowstorm. So I never want to deal with that. And of course, never say never, right? But I don't ever see myself running like a February meet or like or something like that, or a January meet. It's like, nope, I would just rather it be really hot and we have to deal with that than having to deal with snow and ice. And all right, you have to cancel registrations or put up like all right, you have to email me by this point now if you want a refund, or like that's just way too crazy. It reminds me of the American Open back in 2013, I think, when it was down in Texas and they had another one of these epic snowstorms where there's ice and everything. And I just can't even imagine trying to run or hosting a national meet and just having you can't drive on the highway. You can't do this. All the public transportation's down. The snow is really bad. I mean, they made it work, but what a nightmare winter events are.
Yeah. I would say yesterday was like the coldest I've experienced in a long time. I think living in this like suburban area and being a car person has completely changed everything.
Has it?
Like being in the city in Manhattan yesterday and like walking around, I was like, oh, which like I always knew like I don't wear real coats. Even if I have a coat on, it's like it's very light and it's more like fashiony. Like I usually don't even. Yesterday was one of the first day I buttoned my coat in a very long time. Um,
Well, I imagine the
and
wind, it
then
gets windy down in New York City, doesn't it?
yeah, it was super windy, and I mean, even if it says, I think it was like 0 degrees as we were walking around, it's like feels like -10 or even colder, and it's insane. It's a different life living in a city and like walking to places. Like that's why I almost honestly like some days I might leave and I'm like, oh, I forgot to even bring a coat really, because
Yeah.
I just go straight to my car and then outside for 20 seconds and then I'm inside a building. But when you're like walking from place to place and like the accumulation of the cold, I think, is what gets you.
Yeah, I could see that. And I would need some kind of a face mask. That's like one of the most uncomfortable things when the wind is blowing that really harsh chill right on your face. I used to have to experience that all the time, walking up the mountain to campus to SUNY Cortland, because it would always be cold and snowing and there. And then you're on the side of the mountain, so like you're just walking into the wind. You're just walking to your
Yeah.
building, and it's like it's trying to push you back away from the building. And so in New York City, it goes to show like New York City during the winter, and even when it gets hot down there, because like they just have like if the weather is extreme, it's going to be horrible down there. Like
Yeah.
imagine when it's a heat wave and your AC doesn't work down in New York City or something. That is also like a nightmare. I wouldn't want to have to necessarily experience. But like if you think about like other parts of the world where like it's kind of always like this, and you're like, oh, I kind of understand why these people are the way they are, or they're like
Yeah.
hardier people, like if you think of like, like people who live in like the Scandinavian type countries where it's always snowy or cold, or you're out in the
Right.
mountains, or in the Arctic areas. It's like, yeah, you're going to be like more hardened person versus someone living in a more tropical thing where they're like, yeah, every day is happy, unless like a horrific storm comes through here and wipes down all the trees. That's really all we got to really worry about. It's just otherwise you're just in the sun happy all the time,
Yeah.
but then there's other people that are just, I don't think they're miserable all the time. It's just they're just in a harsh climate and they have to deal with it, and that's why we have all kinds of different types of people all around the world, and some of them are hardier than others. So it's an interesting thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like you ever see a thing where they talk about, I can't remember which country it is, but they'll leave like the babies outside in the cold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't remember which country this is, but it's like it helps their immune system.
I want to say Sweden, but I think they do it in places like Iceland as well.
Mm-hmm.
Where like it's common for people to be like eating or like getting coffee at a cafe and just all the strollers are outside.
Yeah, it's like, I was going to leave my baby out there, but it's like it's amazing like what it does for their immune system. And but then like you go to somewhere else and it's like you're like maybe overly smothered, like you're like not allowed to like get dirty or something, and then you could see how that affects their like immune system, where it's like you, if you grew up in an age where it's like, oh, you got to Purell your hands all the time, well then your body never gets a chance to deal with those little tiny microbes that they wouldn't have made you sick at all, but they would have, like, your immune system would have learned, all right, that little bug that wasn't going to be a big deal, we squashed it, not a big deal. But like now, if it didn't have to deal with it for like the first 15 years of your life, later on it could become a big deal potentially, because you never learned how to. Isn't that like an amazing field of study on like how all that works?
Yeah. And I mean, it is everything of just like, you have to deal with stuff in order to know how to deal with stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were talking about last time. We're like adapting, and like you have like the you use the Dragon Ball Z example, and I use Doomsday from Superman. Well, it's like, all
Yeah.
right, when you're growing up, you get the chicken pox, and in some situations, you're put around other kids that have the chicken pox, so you get the chicken pox. That way,
Mhm.
you bounce back stronger, and you don't have to deal with it. Hopefully, as an adult,
Right.
it's even on that level, it's an interesting thing. But then you get the other side of it, of where parents may not expose their kids to that, and they may be overly protective, but that is really
Mhm.
doing more harm in the long run, because you never got a chance to adapt. Your body never got a chance to learn that, hey, we can push through this type of illness or take it on when we're strongest. It's
Yep.
really cool. Well, what field of study is this? Is immunology?
Yeah.
I don't even,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah, that'd be. There's so many like different fields of study, that encompass like health, and maybe even fitness too. That it's like there's just not even enough time to go through all of them. You just got to kind of
Right.
focus on one and get the cliff notes on like, okay, yeah, that's it makes sense now. We're starting to learn that if you don't want your kid to have a peanut allergy, give them peanuts when they're younger. And a lot of the kids that develop peanut allergies, it's because someone had a peanut allergy. You don't want your kid to have a peanut allergy, so you don't give them any peanuts because you're afraid to give them peanuts because they'll get an allergy. But that's the thing that causes the allergy later on. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why you have to expose your kids to physical education and fitness and health early on, and you kind of build a hardier person that way. It's but like look at like you see like the kids that come from like the Midwest, and they grew up on a farm, and they're like, oh yeah, I just drink milk right from the cow, or stuff like that, and they're moving bales of hay when they're young. And then you're like, who is this giant? Like, why are they this big and strong and everything? And it's like, well, that's just how they grew up. They were just raised. They were literally raised to be big and strong. And then it's like,
Yeah.
then there's James McDermott. It's like, here's a Super Nintendo. Here, just hang out and play video games all the time. It's like, well, that's going to lead to maybe a slightly different result. I think if you could go back, would you change any of your upbringing?
No, and I mean, it's also genetics. I think both things come into play.
Mhm.
Like they were always going to be that to a degree.
Yeah.
Like there are still like, yeah, there's like a coddled version of who you could be versus like the type that did have to grow up on a farm, but like certain factors were always going to be the same. And yeah, I think it's like which one leads to the other. But I don't think it's really that way. I think it's always that they're playing with each other.
It's like
Like they do have to go hand in hand. And it's almost like a faded thing of like, yeah, because you are this size, you did end up growing up playing these things because you were a certain size. Coaches pushed you in these positions because of your size versus like, yeah, because you were in like, yeah, like you wouldn't, there are some adaptations that you can like grow into because it's like that's your upbringing, like you have to figure it out. But also, I do think that a lot of things are just kind of meant to be. Like you can
yeah.
definitely see like certain people are like, I don't want to say wasted potential, but like they clearly could have been built for something else. It just didn't work out that way. It's like when you just see like a extremely tall person and you're like,
Mhm.
have you ever played basketball or volleyball?
That's
And they're like, nope. And you're like,
immediately where my brain
okay,
went.
well, okay, like that could have been great for you. Maybe you tried it and it didn't work out, but you
Yeah.
know, yeah. I feel like those things are always you always end up where you're supposed to be, or at least like get a touch on it.
Isn't that funny that like someone who's like really tall, like not like 6 foot or something like that, like you're like 6'5", 6'6", 7 foot, um, it's funny. I know where to find a 7 foot tall person. There's a guy that works at a barbecue place in Binghamton that like when he comes up to your table, you're like, oh my! And he starts off by telling you how tall he is because he knows that's what you're going to ask. Like he's here to take
Yeah.
your order, but he starts off with the, oh, by the way, I'm 7 feet tall. Let's just get that out of the
Mhm.
way. But like it's funny, like those people, a lot of people think in their head, like, I wonder if they play basketball. Right? Like, isn't that like that's like one of the first things that is like, oh, I bet you'd be good at basketball just because
Yeah.
you're tall. And I don't know, is that true? Like, just because you're tall, doesn't mean you're going to be good at basketball. There's still so much skill, right? Like, or is there a threshold where like if you're just this tall, it just doesn't matter. You can just stand over there and you're just going to put it in and no one can get the ball from you. Or is there a point where the skill negates how tall you are? Can you just throw any like 8 foot tall person in the NBA and they're gonna be just all right, go stand by the basket, we'll lob it to you, and you just throw it in.
Not exactly, but I mean, I would say pretty much. I think there's like a threshold of like, because I mean, like there are different levels of like that's just extremely lanky and like you still have to have control over your body in general. But
Mhm.
I think it's easier to develop a player that has those attributes already. So like you can pass without. It's the same thing as like having a really tall, big kid playing football early on. Like you can develop those skills. Like the skills can come later. You're
Mhm.
already the body for it. We don't have to
Yeah.
worry too much about like getting you strong or like getting you to fulfill these roles because your size itself puts you there. The skill is something that we can always add in or refine as time goes on because you're going to be doing that anyway. But
Yeah,
it'll be
you're playing the
harder if
game.
you're undersized or not built for it. Yeah.
It's like when you got like the high school football team and one kid's 6'3" already, and you're like, wait a minute, is that an adult on the field? Like
Yep.
everybody else is like 5'7". It's like, no, he's just big, and
Yep.
that's that's an advantage our team gets because we found him. He's in our school district,
Mhm.
so and now he's just going to be mowing people down on the field. No, it's fun thing to think about. I wonder if they're always developing these different types of technologies and like people are looking into like longevity stuff, which the article that we're going to talk about today talks about a little bit. They're looking into genetics, all these things. I wonder if eventually like you'll be able to like put like a drop of your blood into some kind of machine and it'll tell you like, all right, if you did this early on or trained this way, this is what you can kind of accomplish. Wouldn't that be
Mhm.
like a weird like future predicting machine? And then I do wonder too because people are petty and awful as well. I imagine if you had that technology, it would only be a matter of time before some guy is like, oh, I could have been a billionaire, a sports player for XYZ sport had my parents done this. Well, I'm going to sue them now because they gave me potato chips and didn't put me in sport. Like it's only a matter of time, right, before all of that craziness just kind of erupts.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like to a level it already has. I think, yeah, there's definitely enough research that I think retroactively you can go back and see like, but I mean,
Really?
it's as simple as saying hindsight is 2020, right? Where it's like, yeah, you can look at who you become as an adult and say, oh, if these things were these things, then this,
Yeah.
um, in science is just more data, I guess. So it's hard to say like genetically what you could, do, but I mean, it's just a bunch of data. So if you're able to see like, all right, essentially you would have to go other people like me under these circumstances, what are the differences and just getting like a, I don't know, some sort of like algorithm to decide like what yours would be. But you would have to do it based off of already existing data, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I feel like people do that all the time, and then people are always complaining about how their parents raised them and how that didn't lead to their best potential anyway. So
Well, and I think the argument from the parents' side of things is like you still would have had to do the work and look at the track record of work that you've done with other things,
right.
and because it's still not guaranteed. You could. I think that like you could maybe they might already have it now, or if you develop some kind of thing that could show you what your physical output would have been. But I don't know if you could really measure or mark like what your like internal like your will would be, your intention would be, because you still have to have a certain mindset to be able to do the things that would produce success. So like going back
Yeah.
to like the 8 foot tall basketball player, they already have the height and the build and everything that you would want, but they're still going to have that intrinsic motivation to put in the work to be a better player and to know the game and have the intelligence to play the game on like, where do I put my body? How do I block this guy? Like there's so much stuff that after so many years of playing the game and being intellectual with the game that you would just do automatically. Like I don't have to think about where I need to be. My body moves there on the court. Like I imagine a lot of those guys must just move intuitively to play basketball at the highest levels. I mean, I don't know basketball. It's like, but if you think about other sports, you kind of just have to know, right? And have the intelligence of the sport itself. So it's interesting stuff.
And it's like a blind or like double blind experiment of, does knowing the result change the result?
Yeah.
It's like Macbeth, honestly. Like if the witches never said anything to Macbeth, would that have happened? Or
Yeah.
because he knew that this was the outcome, that he forced the outcome to be that?
Yeah. It's like
So it's the same thing with like if an athlete knew, like, hey, you are destined to be one of the greatest players. Like for some people, that means they will work hard to fulfill that. For others, they'll think that they're just going to be given it. So they might not work on those skills as much because they know that they have the physical ability to be that.
Yeah. It's like I mean, it's like every like story just like that has like a prophecy, and the person that's trying to stop the prophecy ends up, the actions to stop the prophecy are the thing that brings the prophecy forward.
Right.
It's like you look at Greek mythology, all that stuff. It's every single time you try to one up fate, you just end up, it always goes in the direction that you didn't want it to go. That like like you all right, the prophecy is that one of the king's sons is gonna kill the king and become king himself. Well, of course, all right, I have to kill all my sons. And then there's the one you didn't know about, and then they come back because you're an evil tyrant because you killed all, and then they end up overthrowing you. It's yeah. So you can't beat fate. You can't beat it. It's whatever's going to happen is going to happen.
To a degree.
But,
yeah.
I mean, you still have some control, right, over your story. It's like it comes back to your own personal character, and to keep pushing, to keep trying to get the best out of yourself, and maybe put yourself in good situations. And then if you have like that drive to be the best, it'll eventually happen. Maybe, nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
I just saw the Oscars is coming up in March, right?
Yep.
I saw a thing about Al Pacino won his first Oscar for the movie Scent of a Woman, and he had been nominated. That was the 7th time he was nominated. So 6 times before, he was nominated for the Best Actor award, which is a lot of times to be nominated, a lot of times to be acknowledged as like one of the best this year, and to put in such amazing performances and still never win. And when he went up for his acceptance speech, the first thing he said was like, "You broke my streak." And it's like it's a funny joke, you broke my streak of being nominated and not winning. But it's cool that like he is one of the best, and he's going to keep he's going to keep trying. And I don't think that winning the Oscar is the goal, right? I don't think when you're putting on performances, I think you're just trying to be the best actor possible, and you might know that this could get you nominated for an award, because I think getting nominated and winning an award is different than winning a championship or something where you're like actively like the end result is going to happen right now for your efforts. I don't know. You might think differently. But I just think it's to keep putting up the same level of performance, regardless of that, other people might get a little bit deflated and be like, well, I'm just going to kind of phone it in. I already know I'm good. I'm just going to do these things. But to keep putting in that high performance to get nominated and then eventually win, and then to just take it on the chin like, well, you broke my streak. I was kind of enjoying that before, in a funny way.
Yeah. No, I think it's all relative. I do think that there are some people in all forms, whether it is acting or sports, that, once they achieve what they set out to achieve, they take their foot off the gas. I think it happens with actors a lot too. Because once you make something the goal, what happens when you either continue on because you want more, or you're content and then you did it, so you take a rest, or it was really never the goal, so you just continue on doing what you were doing.
There's a decision point, right? After you win, maybe that first one on like, what do I do next? I can kind of coast from here, rest on my laurels, get deals, sponsorships, whatever, still get roles or still compete. But then you have to like decide, is that a decision? Like is the next level above that where you're going to go deeper into greatness? Is that all your decision at that point? Let's look at CrossFit. Like CrossFit, you have people that won one title. Then you have like Tia that won 10, and Matt Frazier, or not 10, she's won 9. And then you have Matt Frazier that's won 5. At a certain point, do they have to decide, oh, I finally did it. Oh, check it off the bucket list. But then to come back and do it consecutive years and to be so dominant, that is the decision, right? At that point.
Yeah, but I think the goal, and I think they say it a lot, is that they want to be. We've had so many across so many different sports of great people who have won. But again, in every sport, I feel like there are great people who have won multiple times. And I think a lot of those people, their goal is to be put in those conversations of being like the most dominant. So it's not always like, I think a lot of people already surpass that goal of like, I want to win a championship. And so many people are going for like, I want to be known as like one of the best all time. And then in order to do that, I think that's a more open-ended goal that doesn't necessarily have as strict of an end time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting thing with like with CrossFit. I don't know. I think Tia's definitely going to come back after she has her second baby. It's definitely on her mind, right? 10, and just kind of where like her legacy is in the sport. I would wonder like when like she really started to think about it. Was it after the second time? Like, because the first time is all excitement. Oh, I finally did it, especially since she lost and podiumed other years. So it's like I wonder like which one of those, or like maybe it's like when people start to refer to her as like the GOAT or one of the GOATs or something like that. Like at what point does it like come into her mind, And then do you have to be even stronger now mentally to still win with that thing in the back of your head? Because like that could throw you off too. It could be too much pressure. You see people all the time kind of fold under the pressure when the public conversation around greatness and legacy and legendary and all that stuff kind of becomes too much. And we've seen that in other sports where people kind of, they fold under that pressure. When do you think when do you think it would happen? If you win 9 titles, when eventually do you start to be like, maybe, or is it always there?
Um, I don't know. It probably only takes like 2,
Too.
but it also depends on how you win.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, her first win was she almost didn't win her first win.
Hmm.
So I think you do have to go back the second year to almost make sure. But then I think,
She's had some
I mean, the
some
person that
close
almost
ones,
beat
right?
her, I'm not sure that they were even competing that next year. But either way, right? Like, you have to see how you fare within it to say, like, oh, I am the person that should win this. Is that enough for me? Or do I continue on? Or sometimes it's just to see. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I think once you've won 1 or 2 as well, maybe the second time it validates the first one a little bit more. Like, okay, I squeaked by in the first one. Now, like, I won maybe a little more handedly. Although the person that was there that pushed me year 1 wasn't there year 2, but then I win year 3. I almost imagine like the more wins you start to accumulate, the freer you are in the sport, and you're like, oh, I can just go for it. I'm not concerned.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about event 2, or if I lose an event or come in second, I'm not concerned with it. And then you just have this bigger array of confidence. And then as the event goes on and you are racking up wins, you're just getting freer and freer, where other people might be clenched up. They're like, I have to win this one. I need to chase, and getting the points. I imagine that must play a role in it. You're like, hey, I'm here for a good time. It's almost like it's your party, right? You're like, hey, I'm here. Everyone, like, people are here to see me. I'm having a good time. I know my training went well. I won the last few years, and I already won event 1, and I'm just in a free flow, and it's not a big deal. Versus other people, like the burden is on them. Like, it's not
Yeah.
on me. Like, the burden to win is on them. It's mine to lose. There's got to be like a little bit of that.
Yeah.
It's a very, I mean, not superly complex, but there's many layers to it. But now people can kind of do that and be a champion in their own personal life, right? Like, it goes beyond just sport. The things that you can learn from sport and from training can make you more, like, they can make you a better spouse. They can make you a better family member, a better coworker. You could excel in your particular field because of what sport and training can teach you and pull out of you. And that's kind of a little bit of what's talked about in this article. Why fitness? So it's an interesting thing to think about. Like, we have things now that weren't around, pre CrossFit, at least not in the mainstream, that can push you to kind of everybody to be a better version of themselves.
Yeah.
In the article, we can dive into it here. It starts off talking about, longevity, and Dr. Walford, who passed away at 79 years old from ALS, which I was surprised to see that, because we had just been, doing a whole big ALS campaign at the gym with the Lou. And it's interesting to see that even these people at the top of their field, that are like, all of their studies and focus is on longevity and living longer and healthier. And he wanted to live to be like 150 years old, you can still get a disease that everyone else gets, or other people can get, and there is no cure for it, and you don't know where it comes from. And then that just kind of puts, the kibosh on that. So it was just interesting to read his story. But what were your initial thoughts on this Why Fitness article? We already know what is fitness, and other articles have talked about that, and that's a greater part of the CrossFit methodology. But this, it's an interesting thing, the question, why fitness? And why not health? Why not longevity? Why not thing? Like, why specifically fitness and exercise is such a key component to the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting question. I think yeah, I feel like a lot of what I say is you really do have to weigh things, even back to like this athlete conversation of like, what's worth it? Like
Yeah.
you said, like, I mean, you can be going for longevity, but again, is that the only reason that you're doing these things? Because something might happen. And if you don't achieve that goal of longevity, like, was it all for nothing? Or are you pulling something out of this that you can see in like a everyday type of way? Like, are you doing it just to look better? And like, once you look better, or you find an easier way to look better, is everything else gone? Or, so yeah, I think it's an interesting question overall that I think a lot of people really don't think about fully,
Yeah.
as they do some things.
And the article brings that up a little bit right in the beginning on, if you ask a group of people, why are you training in the gym, the answer publicly is, longevity. I want to live longer and I want to have a longer, healthier life. But in private or anonymously, they'll all say, well, it's to attract the opposite sex, it's to look better naked. And I remember when that was like more talked about in CrossFit. Maybe it is. I just don't hear it as much. But in our gym, way back in the day, like in on ramp, it'd be like, like it would just be like announced, like, we're all here to look better naked, and everybody would giggle and laugh and be like, yeah, that is kind of why I'm here. Right? There's not one person that wouldn't have agreed with that. Is that something like, do you hear that out in CrossFit anymore? It seems like that's not really a part of the message, or at least I just don't see it talked about a whole lot. But looking better naked was like a big component of it, it's because it's real, right? It's like, we're not sugarcoating anything. It's like we know why we're all here. Like, everybody would, if there was a button you could pick, and it was like look 10 times better right now, everyone's pushing that button.
I think there's so many more things now that I think I'm not sure if CrossFit is the best or easiest way to achieve that. Also, I think there's so much more knowledge around just sport and wellness overall that I don't know. I feel like
Wait,
there's
what would be
more
better?
of a push to people being athletes.
Hmm. Which
Um,
I did like how a few sentences later the article mentioned that, you know um, longevity, health, look better naked. If you train this way, or train like to be an athlete, coincidentally, you'll check all the boxes, you know,
right.
or at least you should. But what would be a better way other than CrossFit, that if you, and we have to lump in the nutrition prescription too. So if you were eating in the, like, focusing on your nutrition, you're going to weigh and measure, you're going to eat cleaner, non-processed foods, you're going to keep the carbs down, all that stuff, and you're going to train several times a week with constantly varied functional movements at high intensity. What better method is there to look better naked? I don't know if there is one.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think adding in the functional movement isn't exactly walking hand in hand with looking the best. I think if you want to look the best, you don't necessarily have to do functional movements.
What would you do?
Like, I mean, you can bodybuild, and it's all dependent on what you think the best look is.
Yeah, I could see that. But we also have way too many instances of people doing CrossFit specifically that have big arms, that have big chest and ripped abs. and specifically big legs and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I
See,
don't
I
know.
don't know if that's necessarily true.
I think it is. I think you just got to look across the CrossFit community.
See, I think though that you have the perspective of earlier CrossFit. Like you
But what's
don't
happening now?
know the like gym influencers of today.
Hmm.
So like there are so many people who look way better than any CrossFit athlete that don't do any of that stuff. Or you see them do power cleans and you're like, that's terrible. But like the look
Well,
is what people are looking for.
well, all right. I think you got to go not towards those type of people. Maybe we're both too on the fringes. For the general population, if you're going to get a group of like regular folk, you just take 10 people from Hannaford right now, and you were going to put them on a prescription, and the goal was to get them to look better. I think if you had them do, and they were going to follow it to a T, they're going to come in 3 to 5 times and do the CrossFit training, and they were going to follow the nutrition prescription versus having people doing like bodybuilding splits and stuff. I think the CrossFit group is gonna come out on top. And I know I'm incredibly biased, but I think the proof in the program is there. I think we've seen it. I've seen it work too many times, and I've seen the other way not work when I used to work in fitness centers, and you'd see the same people coming in, and they're doing nothing. They're just on the machines, essentially doing nothing. They're not lifting heavy. They're not sparking adaptations. They come in and they look the same all the time. I used to see people at the Y, and they would just never change. But then in CrossFit gyms, you can see people change who follow the prescription. You see them change like on a dime and make huge progress.
Sure. But I do think that's different. Like someone just walking into the Y versus like you said, like if they follow it to a T. Like if
You have to
you're
follow, yeah, you have to
doing
follow the program. But I think you could easily, I think you could also accidentally do it to a certain point of success by doing CrossFit because of the nature of the workouts. Versus like if you half-ass CrossFit versus half-ass the gym bro routine, I think you're still going to get better results off of the half-ass CrossFit.
okay.
You don't think so?
I mean, I think that there's so much other stuff out there that I've seen that I wouldn't say that CrossFit is the best way for the
Mhm.
way that people based on trends, and it is trends, like the way that people want to look these days, like on social media and all this stuff. I don't know if CrossFit is the route that people would go.
Well, all right. You bring up something good there. Everybody's definition of looking better naked is going to be different, right? So people might want to go a certain, like they might want to only run miles out on the road because they want to look like the runners that they follow and stuff. They want to be that lean and stuff, or they might do the influencer workout because they want to look like that guy and whatnot. Even though I think in that realm, you're going to have more people that are trying to look the way of the person that they're following, and that person doesn't even do the thing that they're putting out on their influencer stuff, and they're also full of drugs and other things. You know, that it seems to be like less honest on that side. But I think CrossFit as a whole, with if you lose weight, you will look better. So like I think you can lose a lot of weight doing CrossFit, and I think that because of we using compound lifts, total body exercises, you're going to get a well-rounded physique just from doing that program versus doing other things too, which that may not be your goal. You may not care about having filled out legs or things like that, and you just want to be skinny. So you're just going to do the running route, or you're going to do all these, you know, the whatever it is that they do for the influencer to look that way. But I think CrossFit as a prescription, if we're just trying to reduce body weight and fill out some muscle and stuff, I think that's going to get you there faster than anything you could possibly do. Especially when you lump in then the fact that it's communal and you have guidance from coaches, which you may not have that in something else. What do you think about that?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Okay, let's continue on. Let's continue on. CrossFit's all right. What is the other program? Because all right, we know what I'm talking about, but I'm just guessing on what these other things that are out there are. All right, there's endurance stuff, and people will want to look that way, but you could well, we're not talking about performance. We're just talking about looks right now, aesthetics. CrossFit is a powerful program that if you did it, it would answer that question of looking better. And then it's also going to answer the question of feeling better and probably performing better too, because you'll be stronger. You'll know how to pick things up when you're at your job and you have to pick up that water jug to put it in the thing because that you were asked to do it. You're not going to hurt your back, So it's it checks so many blocks. And I don't know what these other things out there are. What's an example?
I mean, we talk about metabolic in our area and just, I don't know. I think
so. CrossFit kind of CrossFit ripoff type of thing.
But I mean, these things are different, in which we know. But I think we have the lens of we know what CrossFit is, and we are around people within the CrossFit space. I think once you leave that, no one is saying that they want to look like CrossFitters. Not that often, unless it's a specific CrossFitter that we know has a different look than typical CrossFitters.
Really? You don't think people from a realm of Jeff Adler?
I mean, I know for sure of general public, in the workplace, if people are talking about they want to look this way, I've never heard anyone say a CrossFit athlete's name.
Well, that's one, they're not well known. That's I would in the general public, unless you're people may even within our own gym of CrossFit, and this has been true all the way through. When Rich Froning was winning, there half the majority of the class might be who's Rich Froning? Because people don't follow the sport. But I don't know. I feel like people there's a lot of great physiques in CrossFit that if you just showed someone that body, people would be like, yeah, I would, if I could hit a button, I wouldn't mind looking like that. Versus who's a person, I don't know who the other person we're putting up as an example is, on that would be known by the general public outside of an actor, right? People know actors. Yeah. People know actors way more than they know sports people. And you also don't hear people be like, I want to look like Tom Brady,
right.
That they don't say those things.
Exactly. So I think that's the next thing of I think the functionality takes away from the looks. These people are focused on being athletes. They're not focused on being aesthetic people.
Wait, who?
So I think if
the
you
games athletes
and you go, yeah,
but they do have the aesthetics by default.
Sure, they'll have it. If you put a picture up and you go, do you want to look like this? Somebody would go, yeah. But if you go, all right, here are 2 pictures. This person only does bodybuilding. This person does CrossFit. I don't know if the answer is still the CrossFit person. And I think
it depends.
Is the reason.
Well, it probably depends on the type of bodybuilding, right?
I think there is aesthetics versus functionality, and it can work together. But I do think it's that the attributes, if you're putting some things into functionality, just like we see with weightlifters, it's you can be the best weightlifter and not look jacked. You can not look lean, all of that, because you're putting some of that into functionality for sport. So I think purely based on aesthetics, I don't know if CrossFit is the route that many people would choose. I think
No,
it
yeah,
could get you
because
to a point.
but I think the functionality part is like a notch in CrossFit's category of like positives, because you can get very, very good aesthetics and still have the functionality versus like a bodybuilder who has great aesthetics but maybe a lot less functionality. Like a lot of those people, they might look really, really good, but metabolically they're very unhealthy. Like they would get out of breath very, very quickly, you know. So like doing like a tough task that maybe a CrossFitter who may not be as ripped wouldn't be. And a lot of times what you see from bodybuilding type people, you're seeing different phases of them, but you maybe not don't see what they look like all the time. And like at the highest levels, they don't look as good as they do on stage. Versus some of these CrossFit people, they look good all the time. Like I'm using Jeff Adler as an example. He has a great physique that I think the majority of men wouldn't mind to look like. You know, he has that like that high like way back. You know, remember Brad Pitt in Troy, or like 300. You know, like he kind of looks closer to those people, and those are the
Right.
body types way back everybody wanted. That's why everybody was doing the 300 workout, which is kind of just a CrossFit workout.
Yeah,
So that's what.
again, I think
So that's
it's
why I'm
these
saying
things
I think the general
have
public would
shifted.
go more towards that route to look like Jeff Adler. But they're not going to either,
Perhaps.
because like no one's training that much, and like so like we're getting up high into like the professional space. If we go if we bring it all the way back down, I'm just saying that CrossFit is unmatched if you wanted to find a program that would make you look better naked if you followed the program. I don't, and also in the shortest amount of time. I don't think you could find anything better. And things like metabolic or Orange Theory, these are just offshoots of CrossFit. Like, and I don't know if they have, and it's just my ignorance. I don't know. I don't know if they have a nutrition program either that comes with it. So the great thing about CrossFit is that it has a methodology and prescription for the nutrition that accompanies the training. And it's actually the biggest part. It's the bottom of the pyramid. I don't know if those other things have it. You know, you could be doing metabolic and still eating standard American diet, but that's part of the prescription. The prescription for metabolic is just to come in and do those high intensity classes, versus the prescription for CrossFit is to do the high intensity workouts, but also the nutrition part of it. If you're missing the nutrition part of it, there's a lot of people that would say you're not even doing CrossFit at that point. You're just working out. So the nutrition part of it is a huge centerpiece of it, and that's what we have. We have the prescription. It's right in the level 1 manual. It's you know, we know what to do with it. And the people that are most successful, I would say, are the ones that do couple the exercise program, you know, all those other levels of the pyramid and the nutrition piece. Because the bigger they make that base, everything else will just keep getting better. And aesthetics may not be a part of the pyramid, but it's gonna come. Like it's you don't even have to focus on it. You will trim body fat. You'll look leaner in your face, your neck. You'll start to see other parts of your body change, and it may not be, definitely not at the level of like a Jeff Adler, because the amount of training he's doing is so huge, and he's so specialized. But I think, you know, it's going to lead you in that direction. That's all I got.
Yeah.
In defensive CrossFit. All right, back to the article. We've gone down a tangent here. We were at the point where, let me pull up my notes, which I do think it's cool in the article, the old photos, just like the old training photos of everybody wearing shorts with t-shirts tucked in and everything. Like the fashion in the fitness space has definitely changed. Where am I here? So, all right. So we were at that part of looking better naked and longevity and health and how they could come hand in hand, I think it's cool that the article examines non-health aspects to longevity, that training fitness can get you. It was just, I wasn't expecting this route in the article, but it's talking more about the impact on mood and mental function. And if you start to exercise regularly, you'll start to feel better with maybe your mental states, whether it be being depressed or just having motivation to do your job, or to have motivation to get up and play with your kids. What did you think about this kind of lane that the article went down on? There are a lot of other benefits besides the health part, and longevity part to exercise. And that's one of the reasons why fitness, which is essentially why exercise kind of is an important part of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's enough studies with our the chemicals within our body and how they change throughout the day due to fitness, to say that is 100% true. But yeah, I mean, I think just using your body and being comfortable with your body allows you to gain confidence. Even like a run in the morning, what that does to, your serotonin and how that brings you through your day, and all those things are going to improve. I think there's enough out there that it's almost irrefutable that exercise and overall, just like even the difference between getting outside, exercising inside versus outside. I mean, all those things are pretty cut and dry of like, yeah, if you do this, it will also add in these things that are more than physical. Like everything is, you're using your body, which is going to affect things on a chemical level. So all those things will also improve as well.
Yeah. And this article was written in 2000 or written in 2020 or 2004. I can't want to say 2024. So 2004. And here we are over a little bit 20 years later. And the conversation back then, this was definitely a conversation, but I do think it's definitely more widely discussed and accepted now on like even just little things like, hey, go outside and take a walk, and clear your head. And just that movement is going to be better for you. Getting out of the office with the fluorescent lights, like these are all things that are like huge now on like the impact of sitting, the artificial lighting, being in a space that doesn't even have like fresh air coming in through it, and then also looking at a screen. And it's like, are you in prison or are you at work? Like, what's going on here? And what that does to not only to your physical state, your physiological state, but your psychological and mental state too. And no wonder if someone had to be in that condition that I just described from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock. No wonder, maybe when they go home, they don't want to do anything else, right? Like you've just spent 8 hours just like in blah. And now like you got to come home and like you got to do that project for your house. You're going to read a book or something, or you might just go home and be like, I'm going to drink and I'm going to have this food that makes me feel good because none of that felt good. And I just need something to spark my endorphins a little bit. But like if you are able to take a break and just move your body, that might change things completely. I mean, I'm sure we feel it. Like I'll have times where I'll be in the middle of like a workout and I'll start like thinking of other things that I want to do after this that I definitely wasn't thinking about doing before I worked out. Like, do you ever get in that situation where like you'll be in the middle of a workout and you'll just be like, I'm feeling good, or I'm just sweating, and you're like, I think I'll clean my car after this, or do something. Like you're just on this high of like activity and being active. Does that happen? Do you feel that from time to time?
Yeah, and I think it also depends on one, the type of training that you're doing, and two, the time of day that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like they're smarter people than me who have already done the research on this, but yeah, all those things are going to affect your next move after versus
A little.
like,
Oh, continue.
yeah, I mean, there's like a difference between, doing a Saturday morning workout versus, when we do barbell club, like
Yeah.
how you feel completely changes. Like if we trained in the morning, I think our days would go differently than our current time of training.
Boy, if we were training at 5 a.m. and you guys were out by 7 just to attack the rest of the day, but then also you get your evening back. I do you think that would be a positive change? I'm not saying to do it. I'm not saying do it. Not everybody would agree, but do you think because it's hard, like when you guys come in at 6:15, the most people's days have been over for already over an hour or more.
Yep.
And general public people are starting to think about dinner and winding down and taking a shower and watching a show, and then they're going to go to bed at 9 or something. Meanwhile, here we are wrapping up at 8 o'clock after very, very hard workouts. Like it's and then you still got to go eat and take a shower and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Do you think in a perfect world, if we could just snap our fingers, boom, everyone's there, we were able to make the change? Do you think it would be a positive? Do you think overall? What do you think?
I think overall for the day, it would be a positive for sure. Again,
Yeah.
I think there's enough research out there that's like, it definitely will be. I think for our training specifically, that I'm not too sold on.
Mm-hmm. It would require you to do the things before it that would be maybe
Right.
even harder, like going to bed. Like if we're training at 5 a.m., you cannot be going to bed at midnight or 1. Like, oh my,
Yeah.
like now we're going to have really bad training. But if it prompted you to be like, hey, I'm in bed by 9 o'clock and like I'm getting all that extra sleep before midnight and you're waking up then at 4 or something, I think that would be a positive effect. But if you weren't going to do those things, boy, it would the wheels would come off, I think, even faster, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But I think overall for your day, I think it would be more beneficial. Yeah.
You'd be, there's the stuff out there on the people that work out earlier in the day and how it affects your energy burning throughout the rest of the day. So just alone there, I think it could help too with appetites throughout the rest of the day, where maybe you're not eating, you don't eat all day and then you come do barbell club at the end of the day. We experience that all the time. But I think now if you do that hard training, I think it might change perspectives on nutrition a little bit. And I think you might feel hungry and be prompted to eat more or at different times than you normally would. And then that would maybe cut down on late night eating for those of us that have to, which is probably not a bad thing either, because that affects your sleep or could affect your sleep negatively if you have a giant, 3 to 4 serving burrito bowl, from Chipotle at 9 o'clock at night, and that's all just sitting in there digesting. So yeah, it has its, there's a lot of, I mean, like we're in a situation where we're doing what we got to do, right, with the time that we have, and we've made it work. But it is interesting to think about how things would change for sure.
Yeah.
How did I forgot how we even got down this lane of changing barbell club
Just
time.
the like secondary benefits of exercise.
Yes. And it mentions in the article here. So I'll just read up to this point real quick. There's another non-health advantage to becoming fit that doesn't require blurring conventional or colloquial distinctions between mind and body, but rather acknowledges the distinction and uses physical experience and success to draw effective strategies for success in non-physical domains. At CrossFit, we call this the transference effect. This is another thing that I don't really like. It's funny how like this article from years ago says at CrossFit we call this the transference effect. I don't know if they do anymore or how much longer after that they did. Do you ever remember hearing that at your level 2, your level 1 in any of the articles or videos that you've seen? I'm pretty sure I've never uttered those words in the physical location of Albany CrossFit, or like,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's that's an interesting thing to sometimes go back into these older articles and like find older terms or things like that. And it kind of makes you wonder, it's like, maybe we should bring that back a little bit, or like think about that a little bit more, because it kind of has like fallen by the wayside.
Right.
I'd have to look. I don't even know if this term is in the level 1 manual. It might be, but I would be interested to know what CrossFit thinks about this anymore. It says, we know that the gym is a testing ground for improving and developing the will. Physical achievement, fitness requires repeatedly converting thought to action or giving expression to your will. The costs of physical achievement are real, painfully tangible, measurable, and fleeting, while the rewards are equally real and measurable but sweet, not painful and long-lasting rather than fleeting. It's is this essentially another way of saying training is working the muscle between your ears?
Yeah, I thought that that's what they were kind of getting at. Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff about that online, just overall with like, I recently watched something where someone was talking about doing progressive overload, essentially just in their life. How they brought that principle to just life of like, all right, you're constantly going until really like you fail, and then you know where your limits are. And then over time, you can try to pass that point in each thing, like career, relationships, whatever. Yeah, and I that's kind of what I took from that part, is that they're talking about, all the things that you can draw from your training into the real world, just like going through something hard and just, again, working to that point of like, I know where my limits are, or I'm going to try to like surpass these limits, and just bringing it to other parts of your life.
And that's how you're going to spark the adaptation to begin with, is to push the boundaries of those limits once you find them, or to push into kind of uncomfortable spaces that would force you to grow, or force you to have, I guess it is kind of forcing, or prompt you to grow. And then getting stronger between the ears, and that's definitely something that's been around before CrossFit, on just like general gym training, like doing squats, bench, and deadlift, and other things. It makes you a stronger person in here in your head, and that helps you in all things in your life. And then you do get kind of like that transfer effect into everything. And it's like they say here, the gym is just the testing ground for improving and developing your will. And they kind of go into this a little bit more deeper into the article, talking about the impact on character and athletic training. And we were talking about character a few discussions ago, right? Where people were almost saying that should be the bottom of the pyramid, of right below nutrition, on like, well, you have to have good character to grow all these things. But then it's like, okay, is that something that needs to be specifically done, or is character kind of a byproduct of training and spending time in the gym and doing these hard things? And it's going to happen within everything on whatever level you're working on. Like if you do start to put in the work in the kitchen to dial in your nutrition, well, that's going to have an effect on your character, the same way going into the gym and working on your pull-ups is going to have an effect on your character. It's still the same person that needs to come in and do the work. It's not going to just happen for you. Is that
Yeah.
That's kind of what it's all leading up to. And I do like the example here. The example that it said, numerous studies have demonstrated that athletes compared to non-athletes are more extroverted and open in their outward communication. Have a stronger achievement need. They're more aggressive. They're more psychologically stable. They're less anxious, more confident. There's a whole bunch of things here. And you know what this reminded me of? When like football players or athletes from other sports, you'll see someone leave like the NFL and they'll get like an executive job, and it's because they're used to working on a team. They're used to like schedules. They're going to like, be strong and confident to like lead that team in whatever company it is. Maybe they're selling paper towels, but they're also going to have a drive to be like, we got to be the best paper towels in the country, in the world, stuff like that, because of like that background of sport and training. That's what it made me think of. Does it make you think of anything different?
Yeah, I mean, this thing, I think this is another one of those things of you might have already been that person.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we're like the football example, there's Andrew Luck, who was an NFL quarterback who was great, but he retired maybe 5-6 years into his career. And everything that everyone ever says about him is like, oh, he literally could have done anything and been the best at it. Like people like from his football team in college, all this stuff. And they were like, he's genuinely one of the smartest people that I ever talked to. And everyone knew like whatever sport he decided to pick, he was going to be one of the greats in it. And again, he retired after just a handful of years. Just because it wasn't worth it to him, but his impact was like huge.
Not worth it to like, all right, getting hit in the head, concussions.
Yeah,
like
just like overall, just like, and I think it was also that thing of like, dare I say he was too good for it? Like, I think he was that much of like a human being that like you literally could have done anything and you chose the one where like the organization isn't treating you great. Like you do get hit a bunch and get hurt and all of these things. But I think he's an example of like, you might already have those traits in you and you just needed something to kind of bring them out, or they were going to come out in anything that you did. So there is correlation between like people who do, physical activity, they have these traits, but I think those traits also help you get into those spaces.
Yeah. There's definitely going to be a lot of people that are like him, where like they could, they have that greatness in them and they can go any route. And then there's probably a bunch of people that where they could be that person, but they do still need like a push and something to bring it out of them, kind of a deal. What team did he play for? That name does sound familiar. Andrew Luck.
For the Colts.
The Colts?
It was essentially like they traded away Peyton Manning when Peyton Manning was hurt to get this guy as the first pick.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
And he came from an Ivy League school. I can't remember. Was it Stanford? But yeah.
Well, yeah, and that takes like also like a special person to, because everybody has different values too. For him to be like, you know what, I'm making so much money in the NFL. Like I'm sure he was making a lot of money. So to step away from that, it's probably not easy for a lot of people, and probably a lot of people are like, well, if I sign again, I'll get a contract for X million and stuff like that. And he's just like, no, that's not worth it either. That is definitely a special person that can just step away from that. Or like when you see like some people, I don't know what the name of this person is, but it was an NFL athlete who he'd made like enough money, and he's like, that's pretty good. I'm content with the 5 million I have. And then now I think he does charity work or like cooking food or something like that, And like I think that is a really cool part of like some of these guys' stories, when they're like, you know what, like I'm playing football because football was the thing I needed to get me from this stage of life to here. And that's
Yep.
how I was going to get through school, or that's how I was going to get through tough living conditions. And I had to work hard. It was like the vehicle. But you know what my real passion is? Chicken wings. I love eating them. I love to
Yep.
cook. I want to have the best restaurant. And now I have the funds, and I have like the world awareness, and I have the drive within me. I'm going to make the best one. And then next thing you know, they're on Shark Tank selling the recipe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And getting involved in that world, I do think that's always a cool story. And I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. Like another 3 million, you say? Like, I don't know.
Right.
Put yourself in their position. Yeah. I don't know. I think I could be possibly content with, cause it's like, are you chasing the money, or are you like in the sport for the love of the game? I feel like some of those guys must have been like more of love of the game, and then they're like, okay, the game is passing me, it's time, and I have enough money. But I'm sure there's plenty of athletes that it's like, I want another 10 million,
Yeah.
and then you hear the stories of where the NFL, I don't know if I'm right in blaming the NFL, but they don't teach these athletes how to manage the money and what to do now. Like all of a sudden you had no money. Here's 10 million, Miguel. Good luck. That's,
Yep.
I don't know. Are they making changes to help athletes with like finances and being like, hey,
They have
don't go
like
too
player
crazy?
associations.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's mostly, I mean, in conjunction with these huge corporations. But it's always like unions essentially that are
Mm-hmm.
the ones leading those things up. And the NFL's like, I guess you guys can do it. But yeah, I think there is more of an emphasis on that.
That's good. Like, should they have a responsibility? Like in all the sports, like hockey, baseball, football, tennis, whatnot. Should there be some kind of a thing where it's like because the money could drive you down so many dark paths on like drugs, unsavory people that you're around now that you shouldn't be around, spending too much, getting in debt, and then now you get hurt, and now you can't make another 5 million to pay back the millions that you spent. Like should there be some kind of like responsibility on the organizations to help people? Because like the organization itself may not think about money like that. They're like, oh, just don't go over budget and stuff like that, the accounting team. But like when you give a regular person a lot of money and they didn't have any before, and maybe they came from a situation where they really didn't have any, you can go crazy really quick. Like I remember back in high school, when I graduated from high school, my mom gave me like a few $1,000s as like a graduation gift. And it was the most money I'd ever had. Do you think I spent it responsibly at all? No, because I didn't know how. I'm like, I'm gonna buy all the
Yeah.
crap I want right now. And like, oh, and you're living large because you don't comprehend how quickly that can go and how
Yeah.
quickly it will go. Like, so I've done that with a really, really small amount of money. Now, if I was 18 and you gave me several $1 million, the stupid stuff I would have done with it would have been crazy, like, so I don't know. Should
Yeah.
they be responsible, or are they taking responsibility?
I mean, no, because they're a corporation. I think it's a bigger
Yeah.
thing, but I'll just go through it quick. I mean, these organizations mostly care about their entertainment value and money and all this stuff. I mean, if we're going back to the character thing, they have such eyes on these people for years and years. If you're good enough to get to the NFL, since you were like a freshman in high school, people have had eyes on you, not just
Really?
on the field, but like off of the field.
Wow.
And I mean, you see it
It's
now
kinda-
where like
kinda
people on
creepy.
the news across all sports, whether it's hockey, basketball, football, whatever, they are bad people that things just get brushed under the rug because they're bringing these organizations or these colleges money, and then they continue to do them in their adulthood So I guess this is that other thing of like sometimes your character is your character, in the fact that you have sport doesn't necessarily change that.
Yeah.
Like if you're a bad person, you might just be a bad person. If someone allows it to continue, then it will continue.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't paint all the athletes as innocent little cherubs,
Yeah.
Because when I say should the organization be protecting them and stuff like that, because you are right, like whoever they were without money is who they were going to be with money, and doing things and getting involved with things. I guess like I kind of look at it as like well they're just kids, a lot of them, like they're just like they haven't been out in the world and this is all they know, so there should be something. Because like even if you even if you weren't involved in professional sports, you could still be a kid that like is running down the wrong path. But now you just happen to be a kid that has the ability to run down the wrong path. You're good at a sport, and now millions of dollars is being thrown at you. And now it's almost like you're being enabled to go down the wrong path at way higher speeds than you ever would have if you weren't in this situation, which might make it harder to turn things around, because now you have like a young millionaire that has resources that they never would have had before, so yeah, interesting thing. But back to the article here. So yeah, just bringing out those qualities. I did find it interesting that it says are demonstrated athletes compared to non-athletes are more aggressive, but I think sometimes aggressive is looked at as like a negative thing all the time, but it doesn't have to be. It's just an attribute, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's like you just might be more aggressive in the pursuit of your goals, and things like that. I thought the Shakespeare quote was nice here. Our bodies are gardens to which our wills are the gardeners. I don't know specifically where that is from in Shakespeare, but the will is the gardener. Interesting thing. And then essentially we're at the end of the article here. I just highlighted these last two paragraphs, or some of these last two sections here, that says a physical culture that inspires, guides, and enriches every aspect of our being may add years to our lives, but certainly adds life to our years. So if we're talking about longevity and stuff like that, that's a powerful little part of that sentence on adding life to the years instead of just years to the lives. Longevity independent of achievement, capacity, independence, and productivity, and self-sufficiency potentially becomes grotesque. One discomforting scenario for the future is that life expectancy will rise to 150, with the last 75 years being spent in the nursing home. Oh boy, it's like, well, all right, you accomplished the goal of people living longer, but now you're just stuck in a home, essentially paying bills, essentially buying medicine and supporting companies and other things, and not really having any substance to that life. And then again, that's another thing of like, is it worth it? And I don't think so. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be 150 with the last half of it, 75 years being stuck in a home, just on machines and sitting there again in the room with non-circulating air and fluorescent lights. And so you spend the first 75 years in the office typing away, doing stuff. Then you spend the second 75 years doing the same thing, but there also is no task accomplishment. That actually sounds like hell. That sounds horrific. Yeah. What do you think about that whole last little bit there?
Yeah, I think overall from this, I think what I feel like I say a lot, but like you do have to, asking yourself questions is important. And I think the why is very important because, again, yes, the longevity of it is great, and you want to live a long, healthy life. You want to be able to do things, and as I say, you want to be able to. Not everyone does, honestly. I think that's the thing of like, as individuals, you have to ask yourself, what is my goal, and what's gonna get me there in the way that I want. Because some people do want the quick fix, which we've talked about before, but then you have to weigh that against everything else, where you're like, okay, maybe I want this for my wedding in the summer, but after that, I don't care at all. So are you going to do something that's more of a slower, like it's a slower thing, but it'll last longer, or do you want something that'll get you there quicker and will fizzle out? Or like, do you want to live that long life? Uh, like it's bleak, but I mean, like if you see the memes of today, like people do want to just live fast and young. Um, so I mean, yeah, I think it's asking yourself those questions of just like, how do you want to live your day to day? And if you're gonna do something just because you hope it'll bring you longevity, but you hate it, then it might not be worth it. But again, like if you want that longevity and you're enjoying the process, then I think that that's the best way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are going to be people that will prefer that second 75 years of just hanging out. It's like, all right, well, it was just more time, and it's kind of like a quantity over quality type of thing. And everybody's going to make their own decisions. And that's why not everyone does or wants to do CrossFit. And that's fine. They're adults that can make their own decisions. There's people that do CrossFit that still drink excessively, that smoke, that do XYZ things, but what we do know is that we do have the foundation of it, and it's a proven method now. But maybe you only want to come to CrossFit because it's social, right? Like you just want to be around other people and make friends, and the fitness stuff that comes with it is all bonus. That's and that is the cool thing about it, is that if you do step into an affiliate, regardless of what particular part of it you want, you'll still kind of get the other parts as a bonus. And then it might change over time. Like maybe you don't like to be around people, but it gets you out of your shell a little bit, and you can go like we've seen plenty of people go from being a more introverted person to not being wildly extroverted, but like you see the change in their personality, and like that might even just change it to where they're out in the world in a situation where they wouldn't speak up for themselves, but then they do because of what happens at the gym. Maybe like they're being not treated well at work, and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna say something because I feel strong, I feel invigorated, or I went to the early morning class and that changed my whole internal outlook for the day. And you're just like, you know what, nope, that's not okay, stop taking my stapler. Like just, it could be a little thing like that, or it could be a big thing like, all right, you know what, I feel really good today, I just PR'd my back squat. You step into your boss's office and you're like, you know what, I've been working here for X years, and I think I'm entitled to a raise, and here's why. You spell it all out, and then you get it, versus not, because like you just don't feel good, and you don't feel like you're worth it, and you don't feel like you have any ground to stand on. It's amazing what the gym can do for people, besides besides looking better naked. But like everything can kind of come in one big package just by showing up, right? Just by clicking the app, yep, I'm signed up for class, just show up. And then it's up to you how immersive you want to get with it. Like, okay, do you want to come to CrossFit and then you start to learn more, and then you start to stay after and practice a skill, or you start to ask your coach more about nutrition things, and you start to take that seriously. And now instead of it being 1 hour your day, there's an additional hour once a week in the kitchen of prepping your meals and planning. And that goes beyond just what you're doing with your health and fitness, you're actually teaching yourself how to be a planner and a prepper. And that might bleed off into other avenues where maybe you don't normally do that. Maybe you're the person that goes by the seat of their pants. And then that kind of maybe often ends in frustration where you're like, I forgot my thing, or I didn't think to bring that thing. Like, it happens to people all the time. But if you're always like meticulous in like your workouts and then your nutrition, you're going to see it. You're going on vacation, you're going to see it pop up there too. Let me pack my bag the night before, the same way I would pack my gym bag the night before, because I went to the gym so many times and I forgot my shoes because I was in a mad rush to get out the door. It's going to bleed into so many things. And I guess I don't want to say make you a better person, because that's a whole nother conversation on like, well, what is a better person, or what is everyone's definition of being a better person? But it's going to, I guess, lead to more success, right? Maybe if that's a word we want to use.
Yeah.
So I
agree.
It's important why even talk about this? Why even write this article, right? What is fitness? You have, at CrossFit Coaches, we kind of have to have that answer, because at some point someone's going to ask you that, right? What is fitness? Or it's going to come up. But then why fitness? And you have to have answer for that too, and this is a good kind of starting point. Like, why are we even worried about fitness? Like, we know what it is, but why be worried about it? Or what is it going to do for me? And it kind of got me thinking about the 5 whys, or the 5 W's, in journalism. You've heard of this, right? The who, what, where, when, and why. So it's like, we have the who. The who is kind of anybody, right? Anybody that is looking for a certain something. It can, like, it doesn't have to be just CrossFitters. I think the who is more of like a general thing. Like, who can be kind of anybody. Then you have the what. Well, the what is CrossFit, and then what is CrossFit? What is fitness? Where, that's an easy one. It's in the gym. But also, it could not be at the gym. It could be in your own home, right? Like, the where is anywhere that you can kind of do these things. You can do push-ups, squats, and sit-ups almost anywhere. And that's a beautiful part about it. If you go to the gym, you're going to have coaching and guidance, which will speed things up, I think. Or you could do it at home and follow online programming, do the journal. And then you have a kitchen. So you have a grocery store. The wheres are pretty, they can be anything. And then you have the when. Well, it's when you have the time to do it, and hopefully you will find the time to do it. And then the why is, okay, well, this is what we've been talking about. It could be for health. It could be longevity. It could be to look better naked. If you do CrossFit, though, you'll kind of, any why you could probably think of, I think CrossFit could probably handle it. I don't know. Can you think of any why that CrossFit can't handle if you did the prescription and had some kind of consistency to doing it?
No, not off the top of my head, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one. I can't. So it's CrossFit's awesome. It checks a lot of boxes. Is it for everybody? No, but there's going to be definitely a group of people that will do it and see a huge amount of benefit from it. And we just have to have answers to these questions, like, all right, where do I do it? Come into my gym. I can't afford to go do it in your living room. Like, it doesn't, that doesn't matter. I think the important part is that you do it, right?
Yep.
Any other thoughts on the article, Miguel? Anything like I had a bunch of things highlighted. Did you have anything different highlighted?
No, I think we kind of went through them all. Yeah. Again, I think why is a more personal, subjective question. But I think the whole point is that it's important to ask that. And I think with so many other things out there, like we talked about, like the GLP-1s and all these different fixes, it's important to ask yourself that question. It's not necessarily bad to choose one or the other. It just has to make sense to you, really. And you just have to weigh out all those options. So, yeah, just make informed decisions based off of your whys.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people, and it's okay to start things and not have a reason or a why, like maybe because like you just need to get started. But I think after a while, whatever the activity is, you'll start to figure it out. You'll start to come to your own personal reason. Like a lot of people start CrossFit just because they were looking for something new or a change in their own exercise regime. And then they might find out like, oh, like this is it, my why has changed. Now all of a sudden I want to be involved in the open and the more competitive side of things. Oh, wait a minute. All right, you're back.
Yep.
We lost Miguel for a second. I was just saying how, a lot of people start CrossFit and they just wanted a change from what they were doing before. Like, so they are kind of coming from the Gen Pop Fitness Center type thing. And they're like, I want something different, a different flavor. And that might lead them to like a new why, or like they may start and they may be like, all right, all of a sudden the open pops up. They've been doing CrossFit. They like it. All right. It's what they're doing. But then they're like, whoa, I can have this other outlet now accompanied with CrossFit. And then that pushes them to take things even further, or that kind of revamps their why. And a lot of times I think those people, they may start CrossFit just like wanting a change or general health and fitness. Then they discover the like competitive outlet of it, the sports side of things. And that's the thing that kind of prompts them to be like, I should eat better. Like if I want to, like I didn't podium, what do I need to do? Well, what are they doing? Oh, I should be trying to eat better to fuel my performance. And I should be prepping my meals and doing stuff like that because I wasn't doing anything. I was just kind of winging it. And that actually leads them to better results,
Yeah.
Or they might decide, what, I hate burpees and running, but what's this weightlifting thing all about? All right. And now they're not doing CrossFit, but they're doing CrossFit adjacent things that are still going to lead them to probably better habits, I would imagine, on just being mindful or thinking at all about what they're eating, or weightlifting. We got weight classes. All right, crap. How do I navigate that? Well, all roads lead back to probably nutrition, unless you're a super and you don't have to worry about it. And like, yeah, I'm going to eat burritos and everything, or candy and stuff all the time, which you can take some CrossFit. You can take CrossFit itself down unhealthy paths. All these things can lead towards down unhealthy paths. So, but I guess it comes back to your own individual, well, why are you doing it? There's plenty of pro athletes that smoke, right?
Yeah.
Not the best thing. I don't think anyone can argue in favor of smoking, but plenty of professionals have unhealthy habits. Everybody has their own why they're doing things. You're just doing it just because you're making those millions of dollars and you don't care, versus you just want to be healthier. So yeah, it's I thought that was a cool or an interesting article to go through that kind of fits along with what we're talking about. Like we've been talking about so many things, but like what's kind of the why behind all of it? And CrossFit does have a why, and there is like a forward facing one, but then everyone, the nice thing about CrossFit is even in its implementation from one gym to the next, it's still CrossFit, but it's a slightly different flavor. Just how every member of the gym next door and every member in our gym is doing CrossFit, but they all have a different reason for why they're doing it. There may be some overlap, and then there might be a different level of commitment to their why too. Like you and I might have the same why, but I may be going after the why 50% versus you're all in 100%. And that's just how it is, right?
Yeah.
It's a individual program done in a group setting. So
yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. All right. I think that's it for why fitness. any closing thoughts on it? I think we said it all. I think it's
Yeah.
hard to.
I think we covered it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll have to find. Well, to see if. I don't think this article is in the level 1 manual. I need to look just to see. Or I don't know if maybe it's like truncated down into like just one paragraph somewhere, or the transcending effect or anything like that. But like, I just randomly found it, and I'm like, I've never read this one before. Like, I've heard all the time, like, we do it to look better naked, but I've never read this article before. And it's funny that there are a large portion of articles that were written, but they weren't like integrated into the methodology, like the forward-facing methodology, the way other things have.
Yeah.
But there's still like some value in them, kind of like the rest and recovery article that we wrote, or that we read. So I'll keep looking for more of these obscure ones, just because I do think it's helpful to read them to still like to like understand the methodology a little better on like this was like part of the messaging at some point, and it may have dropped off, but if you know it, it still gives you a better, well-rounded understanding of the stuff that is kind of more prominent today. And at some point you will be asked, once you've coached long enough, you'll be asked all of the obscure questions that you could possibly be asked by athletes, and even things that you're like, oh, I thought that was like apparent, like I thought that was just known, but like no, you haven't addressed it yet, and like when we have new people starting CrossFit, we will ask them what their goals are, but maybe, and we explain what fitness is and stuff, but it may not come up in conversation on like, well, what's the why behind the overall program, or it may just stop at like look better naked, but like there's so many other deeper things underneath it.
Yeah.
So I'll keep looking for these obscure articles. So cool. Well, Miguel, where can people follow you?
At Couldn't Be Miguel on Instagram.
Couldn't Be Miguel. Follow me, James A. McDermott. Follow Albany CrossFit Barbell Club. The Barbell Strikes Back. And thank you for listening. And we will talk again next time.